There we go. Hello everyone, how are we? How was your Christmas? So, we are back for the first episode of Natural Gardening Live for 2023. Very exciting. I am probably more excited than I should be about it, but I'm excited. So, hello and welcome to this week's Natural Gardening Live with me, Josie Rainbird, your natural gardening coach. Yes, let me know in the comments how you had it, how you got on over Christmas. Did you get anything for Christmas that will help you in your garden? Any garden related presents for Christmas? Let me know in the comments. It'd be interesting to see what you've got. So, make sure everything's running smoothly over there. Looks like it is. So in this week's Natural Gardening Live, let me know if you can hear me and let me know if you can see me okay in the comments, so I know everybody's here and we're all okay. So yes, in this week's Natural Gardening Live, I'm talking about five important things smart gardeners will do in January to make their life easier as we head into spring. So it's quite an important one, I think. And there's a few things people might overlook that actually make their lives. Words are hard today, people. Words are hard. Will make their lives easier as they head into spring. But let me know if you already do them. Be good to see. So, about 5 important things smart gardeners will do in January to make their lives easier as we go into spring. Because spring is a hectic time of the year for gardeners, and to be fair, for the garden as well, not just for the gardeners. But we can prevent unnecessary stress and overwhelm by making the most of the sleepier months of winter. So that's what we're talking about today. So let me know in the comments if you have started preparing your garden for spring already. I have a little bit. I won't lie. I have a little bit. And what have you started doing? What are your winter tasks? I don't know why I air quoted that. Winter tasks that you do ready for spring. So let me know in the comments. Where am I? Right. Let me have a drink before we get started. Yes, so everything is good. Right. Put my banner up there for a bit so you can see what everything's about. Right. So winter is a great time to start getting your garden ready for spring. Sounds a bit silly to the end of the year going into the beginning of the year, but actually winter for me in my brain, my gardening brain, winter is kind of the start, because you prepare for the spring. You have a good period of calm, if you like. It's not a lot to be getting on with. You can get a good clean and tidy up going and get your garden ready for when the mayhem starts in spring, and you can get off onto a good start early on. You have to start by preparing everything. It's already done, ready in winter time. So it's a really good time of year to be preparing and get everything ready for the new growing year. So as I say, today we're talking about the important things, the 5 important things that I've got on here for smart gardeners to do in January to make their lives easier as they go into spring. And number one on my list of 5 is planning. Now, I know I talk about planning quite a lot on here because planning is quite important to me, in my eyes anyway. And yes, so planning can make life a lot easier for yourself. Planning can be no, that's bad words. Planning can make life a lot easier, and it can really help in your garden as well. So planning your garden is important. So planning can help you to can help your garden to support you and provide what you need. Now, if you've watched my planning video, which I did, I want to say a few months ago, I think it's a few months ago. I'll try and find it and link it for you. Very good planning video, if I do say so myself. But yes, so if you look for that, I will link that. I'll do it. If you're watching on YouTube, I do it as a card when I finish, card up top. So you can see that. And I'll put a link in the description at the end as well, so you can see. But if you're in the group, I will post it as a comment below as well, so you can see. So planning is a really important time. Planning your garden. This is what happens when you haven't done a live for a couple of weeks. Your brain just goes to mush. So planning your garden is important, and it will help your garden to support you and provide what you need. It will also help you to get a lot more from your space, save you time and money when it comes to garden care and growing your garden as well. This plan, when you create a plan for your garden, being a loose term now, plan doesn't have to be an architectural drawing, doesn't have to be like mass big sheets of paper with all the different different measurements and sizes and everything, dated lines and that sort of thing. No, it doesn't have to be an architectural drawing. It doesn't have to be reams of paper long. It can be a single page in a notebook. It can be an A4 piece of paper with a sketch on it and some notes. The way I usually do it is like the A4 piece of paper or scrap paper, that I do a picture, just as a rough thing in my mind. Sorry, something's hitting me under the desk. It's annoying me. So a rough drawing on a piece of paper. I use the pictures that I've taken through the year as well. And I make notes on the pictures. That's not physical pictures. When I take them with my phone or the camera or whatever, I look back through them and I make notes on what I've seen in the garden as well, which I'll talk about a bit more. So January is a good time to start doing this because there isn't a lot of garden care jobs, if you like, to be getting on with in your gardens. It's very minimal, very quiet. So, I've lost where I am. Excuse me for a second. So planning. So planning now will help you to boost your motivation as well for the garden. So as we come into winter time, we all tend to go into this hibernation, shall we say, or slump, a little bit of a garden slump. I say we all. Most gardeners do. There are probably an exception to the rules, there always is, but by planning your garden ready for spring, you're going to be boosting your motivation. You'll be giving yourself something to look forward to, and it'll be much nicer thing to be thinking about the better weather when we're currently going through some really bad weather, which isn't very nice. It's really wet and windy outside tonight, and sitting here thinking about spring, thinking about what my garden's going to be doing in spring, what I want to be growing in my vegetable patch, all that sort of thing. It makes it much more bearable, and it gives you something to look forward to. So another reason January is a good time to plan, because you can't do much else. So there we go. So when I plan my garden, most of it does stay the same, I will say. My garden's fairly established. It's quite happy. Most of the plants are quite happy where they are. But what I do look for when I'm planning my garden, same when I take pictures and things, is I look for the plants that are unhappy. I look for plants that might need moving, that are basically, they're not happy where they're growing. They're in an awkward spot. They've either outgrown their space or they're just not thriving. They're in they want more sunshine and they're in a shadier spot. They're getting full blast of wind when they don't really they want a bit more shelter. Plants like that, they're a little bit unhappy. They just need moving. So I look for plants like that in as I go through the year, I make note of them, or when I look for pictures, I can see the plants that look a bit unhappy. So when I'm planning my garden this time of year, I look for those kinds of plants to make a plan of where what I'm going to do with them. If I'm going to move them in the garden somewhere, or if I'm going to donate them, if I'm going to replace them, what I'm going to do. So that's what I look out for when I'm doing my planning. I look out for those, but most of the garden does stay the same, in fairness. Half a minute, croak. Try not to cough in the microphone. The other thing I look out for is empty spaces as well. Sounds like a Queen song. Empty spaces. So I look at the empty spaces. Just think about putting this into a sentence. So the empty spaces for like when I cut back a plant and retrain it. Put down a minute. So when I cut back like one of the shrubs or a climber, and I've retrained them to a direction that they should be growing and possibly haven't been for the last couple of years, my honeysuckle, and for one, they leave a space behind where they have been filling. So I look for these spaces and I think about what I can add and what I can put in there, or how I'm going to train the plant to fill that space, that kind of thing. So that also goes into my planning as well. So filling empty spaces. What's the other thing I was going to say about when things die off, or you have dug up an empty plant, an unhappy plant? Seriously, the brain today is not right. And when you dig up an unhappy plant, when that leaves a space behind, you don't always have to fill it. It isn't a necessity to have every gap in the garden filled. I do have to stop myself sometimes, because the other plants that are growing in the area, they might want to fill the space themselves. They might need the breathing space. So by removing the unhappy plant that might have been unhappy because it was constricted, it was squashed in by the other plants, will actually give room for the plants around them to grow in and grow out and up. as well to fill the space. So that might actually, by removing the unhappy plant, will actually make your garden look better because it will give the other plants room to breathe. So that's the other thing I just put as a side note there, just in case. So, filling the spaces. As I say, I generally do take loads of photographs. I can't really help myself, but it happens. I take loads of photographs, and as I make notes through the year, or I sit down when it's cold and wet. Usually on the run up to Christmas, I do this as well. And I just have a look through the pictures that I've taken, and then make either notes on my phone, whatever I do, or if it's on like Google Pics or whatever, I make notes, or I use the pictures. I do like a screenshot, and I do it on Canva as like a, what's like the word, like a mood board type thing. I can't think of the word I mean, but yeah, I put them out and then I have the pictures with the little notes next to them, just as making like a little A4. The word escapes me more than mood board. That's the only word that I can think of at the moment, but it's the word for it, like a planner board kind of thing. But yeah, so I'll do that as well. I do little screenshots or download the pictures and make notes on Canva. So that's quite good. If you use Canva, I do enjoy a bit of Canvaing every now and then. So, So, okay, yes, veg patch. So I went a bit of tan on the planning side because I do like to talk about planning. So the other bit I do when I am planning my garden is the veg patch. This is the part that gets most of the thinking about, if you like. I plan and I, like nearly to the nth degree, I plan my vegetable patch. And it never, ever goes exactly to plan. It always changes a little bit. So I don't know why I put so much effort into planning it. It's just me. So the main part of my planning process is my vegetable patch. I crop rotate every year to prevent diseases and issues taking hold of the soil in the garden. So for my own mental health, I like to have a plan of where I'm going to be planting stuff. Now, as I say, this plan doesn't always work, but as long as I've got an idea of where I shouldn't be planting stuff, but it's like the same family of vegetables in the same place year after year, then the plan's worked as far as I'm concerned. So I plan of where I'm going to plant stuff, and then I refer back to the plan, but sometimes I move things around a little bit. But yeah, so long as I know where I shouldn't be planting things, I'm fine. So yeah, so that's for my own mental health more than anything. So I know what I'm doing and it kind of keeps me on the steady. So planning my vegetable patch, my greenhouse usually stays the same every year. I've got my bed in the greenhouse and I've got my tomato gravel bed there as well for my bottomless pots. So the ring cultures. So they stay the same. There isn't enough space in my greenhouse really to move stuff around, but they kind of stay the same. So there's not a lot of planning goes into the greenhouse, in fairness. Just seed sowing and growing and tomatoes and aubergines and stuff. So there's not a lot of planning goes into that. But the vegetable patch, the raised beds outside, that takes the time. It's a bit like a puzzle as well a lot of the time, trying to fit it all in, all the stuff I want to grow. I am a bit greedy when it comes to growing and sowing seeds. So yes, that was planning. Let me know in the comments if you have started planning your garden out or your vegetable patch out, ready for spring. Let me know if you've decided on what you want to grow. It's very exciting time of the year for that. So let me take a drink before I start on number 2. It's not as long, I promise. Right, let me find number 2. So number 2, I put down as for the 5. Number 2, making an inventory. Inventorying is not a word. Making an inventory of the seeds and supplies you have from the year before. Basically getting ready to make up your orders, which we're all coming close to now, which is exciting. So this does fox me most years, and that doesn't always go according to plan. So I try and stay on top of what I've got year on year. So I know what I need to be ordering, what I don't. Tempting to save myself money. Doesn't usually work. So yes, so I try and stay on top of it. But every year, I tend to lose a packet of seeds. I think I've bought a packet of seeds that I haven't, or they've lost them, one or the other. And I usually have to go out and buy stuff. So all the goodwill in the world, this foxes me most years. Sometimes it works. Yeah, sometimes it saves me money. So I do try and save a lot of seeds from the plants the year before. I save pepper seeds. I saved some tomatoes, but I'm trying some different species of tomatoes this year, some types of tomatoes this year. So I haven't saved the seeds this year. So I'm trying something different. But I've saved peppers, sunflowers, the usual ones. So I saved quite a lot of seeds from the year before. So there is something I want to mention, which is probably number 3. So the next one I come into, we're talking a bit more about saving seeds and what you need to do with them to check them for the year. So I do save a lot of seeds, so that makes life a bit easier. Hang on, tickle, dearie me. So I do save a lot of seeds, which makes life a bit easier. But making a list of everything, a really good list, like a comprehensive list. That's what I was looking for. Making a good list of everything. So you've got it ready to go when you need to place your orders, or when you're organising yourself, ready to start sowing your seeds for your garden. It really does make your life easier. So the way I do it, it's a tip for you if you want to do it this way, is I use a notepad app on my phone. Most phones have got them. Or you could use the old-fashioned pen and paper on an actual notepad. So I use Notepad on my phone, and I quickly, as I see stuff, I jot it down on the notepad. So however much compost I've got, what seeds I've got from the year before. If I have got enough labels, if I need to make some more labels, because I usually make them from like milk bottles or plastic containers and things like that. So yogurt pots, things like that. If I need to make any more labels, if I've got enough string, stuff like that. Just a quick inventory on my phone and make a notepad down. And then the things I think of that I'm actually going to need to buy, I make on a separate part of the notepad on there. So then I know when I go shopping, when I go to a garden centre, if I'm on Amazon, Thompson & Morgan, anything like that, I know what I need to buy and what I've already got. So I'm not going to go blindly around a shop, and it's like making a shopping list when you go shopping. I'm not going to go blindly around a shop and buy lots of stuff that I don't know if I've got or not, but I'm going to buy anyway, just in case. It's going to save me a lot of money, which is what we aim for, really. As much as some things you can buy, they won't go off, and you can save them for the next year. If you don't need to, don't do it. Make a list. Try and stick to your list if you can, and it can save you a lot of time, a lot of money. So that was making an inventory. Very boring one, but a very practical and can save you an awful lot of time. And then my phone's talking to me. Stop talking to me, phone. Everything going okay over there? Yes, perfect. Okay, so number 3, which I mentioned a second ago. When you are saving seeds from the year before, you might need to test them. So testing your seeds, usually the seeds you saved from the year before, but if you've opened any packets the year before and you've got some left to use this year, they usually have a date on the packet anyway, so you can see how long they're viable for. So if you open them last year, because you've got 2 years, they'll be all right till next year, so 2024. But testing the seeds is a good idea, because even if they've been left out, if you keep your seeds in a shed in the garden, or if you keep them in a cold room or anything like that, if they get slightly damp, that can affect their viability. If they get frozen, if you like keep them in the greenhouse and they're out or whatever, and they get frozen, that can affect their viability as well. So there's a few reasons why you should really test them if you can. So let me go through the testing with you. Half a second. Let me know in the comments if you've tested seeds before. If you do either of these testing processes I'm about to go through, they're quite easy. But let me know, because it's something you don't really think about very often. And a lot of people that save seeds or have opened packets the year before and got carried on with the packet, say throwing them away, then they say they're rubbish seeds because they haven't germinated. You kind of think, if you test them, you'd know. But sometimes a lot of things can happen in the year that can actually make them less viable and make them not want to germinate. So it's worth checking. So let me know in the comments if you check your seeds, if you do a seed test or germination test, anything like that. So the first test, there's only 2. There are several methods to test how viable your seeds are. But there's only two really that are important to gardeners that are kind of are worth doing, if you like. So it's the soak test, which I'm about to talk about, and the germination test, which I'll talk about in a minute. Those two are probably they're the easiest ones to do, I would have thought, and the information that you kind of need. You need to know if they're going to be really good, which is what the soak test does, and you need to know if they're going to germinate, or how many of them, out the percentage, if you like, are actually going to germinate, because then you know if they're any good or not. So yes, so the soak test. Let me find it. So the soak test. This is an easy test, but your seeds will need to be sown sort of the day you've done before the day of sowing, if you like. So they need to be sown soon after you have completed this test. So I always do it if I do it, which I do some years. I must say I should do it more, especially when I save seeds. Yeah, so I do it the day before I'm going to sow the seeds, because I'll explain in a minute why. So they need to be done soon after. So for this, you'll need the seeds, obviously, a jar or bowl of water, depending on how many seeds you've got and the size of the seed as well, a sieve, paper towels, and a spoon. Very simple. Now, if you're in the group, if you're watching this from the group, from the Facebook group, I will put in the post for the week. I will put the methods down so you can see what you're supposed to be doing, how you can do these tests. On YouTube as well, I believe we have got the community is open now, so I will do a post and see if I can get posts set up so you guys can see it as well. But if not, listen to this back on replay and I'll explain it again for you. So you'll need, so seeds, jar or bowl of water, depending on the number of seeds or size of seeds you've got, a sieve, paper towel, and spoon. So simply put the seeds in the water. It's very simple, so easy to do. Simply, it just takes a little bit of time. Simply put the seeds in the water and leave them to soak for 12 hours. So this is what I do the day before I need to sow them. As you leave them, you'll see them sort of over those 12 hours, you'll see them the seeds start to separate. So it's quite obvious. It will quite happen for some of them quite quickly. You'll see them start to separate. So the bad seeds will end up floating. So they'll be all on the top by the end of the 12 hours. All the bad seeds will be floating on the top and all the good seeds will just sunk to the bottom. So simple, but so effective. Once they're fully separated, obviously, after like the 12 hours, skim off the bad seeds. Now these can go in your compost bin. They can go on compost bin in your kitchen waste bin if you want to do it that way. Anything like that, you can put them in the popper bin if you want to. But they're fine to go in the compost at this point because they're not going to germinate. They're not good seeds. They're not viable. So they're not going to germinate in your compost bin. So it'll be fine. So you can just skim them off and dispose of them as you will. That's fine. And then drain off the good seeds, put in the paper towel in the sieve, pour the water through so the seeds are caught in the paper towel. So then you can pat them dry and sow them as soon as possible. Because once the seeds are wet, as I say, they've been soaking for 12 hours effectively. Croaky. They've been soaking, so the outer shell of the seed has been softened. So with the slightest bit of heat, they're going to start to try and germinate. So you do need to sow these quite soon after you've completed this task. So, so germination test. Now this takes a little bit longer. Takes around, about 2 weeks usually, 10 days, 2 weeks, thereabouts, depending on the type of seed you've got. Some seeds don't take that long to germinate. It could be like a week. Some seeds will take the full 2 weeks to germinate, but there you go. That is the nature of seeds. So germination test, my teeth in, can take a little bit longer. But you don't have to use the full packet like you do with the viability test, so the soak test. Better off using as many seeds as you possibly can because it tests which ones are good, which ones are bad. With the germination test, you only need to use a small amount. It's a sample test, so only a small amount. You can put multiple different types of seeds on one test, so you only use a small amount. So just a few seeds. So for this, you will need a piece of paper towel, the seeds you want to test, a plate or a tray, something to put the paper towel on, and some water. So start by making the paper towel damp. So it'll become obvious when you get through it, so you'll understand. Start by making the paper towel damp and wring it out so there's like no excess water hanging on. So it's still a damp paper towel, but there's no excess water. So wring it out if you can. Bounty's quite good for this, or Plenty, whatever it's called now. It's quite good for this because it doesn't rip when you like wring it out. So that's quite good. But if you get good paper towel, it'd be fine. So place the towel on the plate or on the tray so it's flat. Sprinkle a few of the seeds that you want to check on the paper towel. So at this point, if you're doing multiple, you can do them in little rows. So you can check which, so you can mark which seeds are which, unless they're obvious, like if you've got beans and little seeds and whatever. So you can do lines. So you can check on multiple different types of seeds in one test. So sprinkle the seeds from the packet onto the paper towel. As I say, it's only a sample, so you need a few. You don't need many seeds for this one, just a few, just to test the germination. Cover the seeds with a plastic like sandwich bag, food bag, or if you want to use cling film, you can, but just make sure there's a little bit of airflow if you can. Just leave a corner up or something so a little bit of air can get through. Make sure the paper towel doesn't dry out. Make sure it's always damp. Place it in a kitchen cupboard or somewhere that's at room temperature that it won't get knocked or interfered with or anything. As I say, make sure the paper towel stays damp, leave it alone, and then just keep an eye on it every now and then. But don't like lift or touch it or anything like that unless you're like re-moistening the paper towel or anything like that. Leave it alone. And then once you start to see the germination, the seeds germinating, so you just say usually a week, 10 days, 2 weeks, thereabouts, you'll be able to start to gauge after the 2 week point. You'll be able to see how many, the percentage gauge, if you like, for the germination rate. So if I can, it's easy. So if over half or half of the seeds that you've put out have germinated, you have a 50% germination rate. It's fairly simple, but this is a really good way of gauging how good your seeds are going to be and whether it's worth sowing them this year or whether it's worth just chucking the packet away. So if you get 50% and more, these are pretty good seeds. If you get less than 50%, this is a bit iffy, really. I wouldn't bother personally. But 50% and over, you're pretty much okay. You can get going with them, they're fine. But because you don't do a small test, you haven't wasted the entire pack of seeds. They haven't all germinated at once. So you're all right. So those are the two tests that are worth doing as gardeners. So we got the soak test, and then we got the germination test. As I say, I will put these in posts in the group so you can see how to do them. Totally lost where I am now. And I'll try and put them in YouTube as well. But as I say, what I will try and do is cut this down into a short, so you've just got those two tests in a short video, so you can just watch those if you need to. I'll do that later as well. That'd be good. So number 4, that was number 3. That was testing your seeds. Oh, my brain today, people. Seriously, this is what comes of not like doing anything for 2 weeks. So testing your seeds. That was number 3. Number 4 of our 5 is sowing hardier. I can't talk. Sowing hardier and more cold resistant seeds in January. Now, have you seen the meme? I can't remember who the character is. I think it's Yoda or Baby Yoda. And it's, I want to sow my seeds now. And it's like the middle of winter. And there's like, I really want to sow my seeds now. No, it's still January. You can actually sow some seeds in January. It is fine. There are some seeds, which I'll get to in a second, which are absolutely fine to be sowing now if you're sowing them either in the greenhouse, if you've got a propagator, or even a windowsill propagator you've got in like a kitchen windowsill or as like a southwest facing window or something. If you're sowing stuff inside, they're fine to be sown now. And they might need that extra time to help them get going. So, which we'll talk about now. So, I sow my sweet peas in January. Fairness, I haven't sown them yet because this weekend was really grim and I didn't want to be outside. It was wet and windy and it was horrible. So I didn't want to sow them this weekend, but I'll be sowing them next weekend, most definitely. So I sow my sweet peas in January in the greenhouse. Sweet peas are very hardy. In fairness, a lot of peas and beans are quite hardy and can put up with and withstand the stress of like lower temperatures. They can germinate. They can germinate at lower temperatures and withstand the stress of the cold quite easily. So I tend to sow my sweet peas in January, so they get a good head start. They're stronger plants when I come to plant them out. So by sowing, as I say, by sowing the seeds that can germinate in colder temperatures in January, you can give them a head start, which is really good. You can save yourself a job as well in the spring when you're sowing the rest of your fruit and veg and everything else. You can help them to mature faster. They are using a time of year that you haven't got a lot else going on. So it's really nice. You don't have to do a lot with them as well with sweet peas or beans or anything like that. So it's really good time to be doing that. So the sweet peas that I sow in January, I usually plant out sort of the end of February, March time. So it's usually about 4 to 6 weeks after sowing, I will end up planting them out. Now, at this point in the UK, we might have snow. In the south anyway. If you're up in Scotland, you've probably already got snow. But in the south of England, we rarely get snow. But if we do get it, it's usually about February, March time we should get it. It's dreadful. So at this point, you need to know the plants that you're going to be planting out can withstand any kind of cold snap. Sweet pea plants are very tough. They are really good. And even broad beans can grow through snow. They're very good. So when I plant them out at the end of February, beginning of March, I'm not really fussed if it snows or if you get heavy frost. It won't stunt the growth. They'll be quite happy plants. And that little bit of cold will actually make them stronger plants and more resilient as well, which is great because then I don't have to do so much with them through the year if they're more resilient. It's amazing. So 4 to 6 weeks after sowing, I'll plant them out. They will, it'll just help them become stronger plants. So it's really good. And it'll save me a job as well in the spring when everything else is germinating and I'm planting so much stuff out in my vegetable patch, bedding plants out in the garden, all sorts of other things. I don't have to then worry about what I'm going to do with my sweet peas, where I'm going to put them. It's all done. They're out, they're ready, they're growing. Tea peas are out, chalices are out, everything's sorted. So I don't have to worry about them because I've started them in January in the greenhouse. I've lost completely my notes now because I rambled. Okay, yes, there I am. Oh, to be in my brain. It's not even funny sometimes. Well, it is a little bit. So there are, as I said just now, there are quite a lot of veggies and different things, including peas and beans, that you can actually sow in January, whether it be in the greenhouse unheated or whether it's in a heated propagator on the windowsill of your house, anything like that. I wouldn't recommend sowing too much out in the garden, not like garlic bulbs and things like that, fine, but too much out in the garden seed-wise, they won't germinate until the soil temperature gets above 10 degrees, which won't happen for a while yet. We are definitely well below 10 degrees. So I wouldn't recommend sowing anything outside yet, but you can definitely sow them in unheated greenhouses and the windowsills, anything like that. So there's quite a lot of veggies you can do this with. I have got, which I believe I have shared in the group before. Sure, I've shared in the group before. Sure, I have. I've got a sowing and growing guide for your veg patch. Generally, it's only vegetables, fruit, herbs, and like edibles, if you like. I will share the link. I will put it in the description of this live so the watchers on YouTube can see them. Can download it, sorry. It's my free downloadable guide. It will have on there a full calendar of all of the fruit and veg, a wide selection, it's like 40 odd on there, of different fruit and veg, when you can sow them, when you can plant them out, when you can harvest them. And there are an awful lot of fruit and veg on there that you can sow in January. So it's perfect. So all these different fruit and veg. There's also companion planting in the guide as well, so you can see what fruit and veg go well together to support each other, to feed each other, to manage pest and disease damage as well. So it's all this goodness in this one guide. So it's quite a decent guide I've created on this one. But I'll leave the link in the description of this video and I'll post it in the group as well, so you can download that when you're ready. But it's got the calendar is an important bit. It's got the calendar of different fruit and veg and the ones you can sow in January, so you can see the month. Perfect. So you can see all the ones that you can start getting going now to save yourself the time and the effort as you head closer to spring, when you're going to have so much more going on, because there is so much more that you could sow later on. Why not start now? Why not? Why not get them seeds in if you can? I can feel my voice is disappearing. Apologies if you're going to hear me croaking in a minute. I'm on number 5. So number 5 is building up resources and support ready for the new growing year. Now, this can come in many forms. The forms I'm thinking about today are friends and family who love gardening, online forums as well, like the Gardening Naturally group, like our group, link in the description if you want to join. This support can help you. So like friends and family and online forums and stuff. You can learn to overcome challenges that are causing problems in your garden. Like in the group, you can post your problems, you can post questions. Either myself or another member of the group can help in whichever way they can. These groups can also be quite entertaining. I know ours can. And sociable, if nothing else. So the resources can be found in different areas. Like you can get, if you join your local gardening groups and things, even if they're online, you can get books donated as well. They have like a book collection, so you can get all sorts of different gardening books freely donated. So you just go there and do like a book swap or anything like that. Experienced gardeners as well, like I've got in the group. Experienced gardeners waiting to help new gardeners get set up. So they don't ask you for anything. They don't require anything. They just want to help. So it's really nice to be part of that. And then when you get to the point that you're an experienced gardener, then you can pass it on. So it's like giving forward. It's really nice. So yeah, books freely donated, experienced gardeners waiting to help. And you can also get plant and seed swaps as well. Now, they're a really good way of growing your garden for free, which I've said so many times before. If you have a plant, like a seed swap, car boot sales are good for this as well, by the way. A seed plant swap, thereabouts, that kind of thing, group. A lot of these have gone online in recent years after COVID. So check out online. Actually, I don't think I added this in. Where most of them have gone online. If you let me know in the comments, I invite you to let me know in the comments if you've got a local seed plant swapping group online, whether it's on Facebook, whether there's a website you can go to, anything like that. Link in the comments, because it might help whatever part of the world you're in watching this. If you're in the UK, America, wherever, I have a wide audience now. They're all over the place. So I've even got some in Spain, Italy, Germany. Wherever you're watching, post a link of your seed swapping group that you're part of, or groups if you're part of many groups, in the comments, because it might help people that are living in your area, if they're watching this video as well, to find plants that they've always wanted and they can have for free. So I invite you to share your groups. Please share away. So put them in the comments. If you're in the group, then you feel free to post it. I might run a thread so it keeps them all under control. So you can post all your points in there. So these are, I've lost where I am now. It's dreadful for me, honestly. I know I'm like a half-wit sometimes, but come on. That was what I was going to say. Yes, TV shows. That was my last thing, honestly. It's been a long day, people. It's been a long day. I apologise. Maybe I should have put something harder in this tea. So over the winter, which is what I was going to say at the beginning of this, over the winter months, I like to re-watch or re-stream, if you like, gardening TV shows from like either this year or ones I haven't watched from previous years. So whether it's The Gardener's World that I've watched this year, I re-watch, or different TV shows if I look on Netflix or any of the other, like BBC On Demand, any of the other streaming sites. If there's any gardening TV shows or videos, I will re-watch them, because again, it helps with the inspiration and like the motivation behind gardening. Your planning, it'll help with planning as well. This is what I was going to say at the beginning, but obviously missed that bit when I was looking for my notes. But it does help to keep you inspired. You learn something new as well. Life's always teaching you, so always keep learning. So you always learn something new from these TV shows. It'll help you to, as I say, plan your garden out. add things into your garden that you didn't think would work before, or you can learn all sorts of different things. So rewatching and restreaming TV shows, going on YouTube, Netflix, BBC On Demand, any other streaming services, catch up on these different gardening shows or videos. They can really help. So that's a free service. It's easy. So that was my 5, and an extra one in for good measure with the TV shows. But that was my 5 useful things, important things that smart gardeners doing for January to make their lives easier as they go into spring. Yes, hopefully they have helped you. There wasn't anything else. I thought there was one more that I was going to put in, but I can't think of what it was. And I can't see it on my notes. If I think of it, I'll do another video for you. So, yes, that's the 5 things for today. We still have a few months to go. So, very excited for spring now after this video today, and getting my sweet pea sown next weekend. So, we're getting there. So, still a few months to go. So, with that said, I will leave it there for today. It has been a bit of a long one tonight, but hopefully you've enjoyed it. It's the first one back after the Christmas break and the first Natural Gardening Live for 2023. So I'm very excited about that. A little bit too energized, I feel. But we will go for a break now. It'll be fine. So I will see you all next week for the next episode of Natural Gardening Live. And I will post it on Sunday, so look out for the thumbnail to appear on Sunday with the information for the next episode. So on that note, I will leave it there. Hope you've all enjoyed it, and I will see you next week. See you later.